It begins in the shadows of forgotten America, the kind of place where the roads are long and lonely, the air thick with silence, and history seems to sleep, just waiting for someone to wake it. Welcome to Odd, West Virginia, a town with a name that feels like a warning, and in its remote corners, a family left to wither and intertwine, doomed by isolation. What you're about to learn isn't a story of evil. No, it's a tale of survival, of choices born out of desperation and consequences you can't undo. Imagine this, an entire lineage folded in on itself, bloodlines mingling until the lines blurred. Inbreeding, the kind of thing that sounds like a distant nightmare, something whispered in the dark corners of history books. But this wasn't some medieval king with a crown and a palace. This is real. Meet Timmy Whittaker, a man whose silence is his story. A man born into a web of blood so tightly wound it could only unravel. He's not the product of centuries-old royal greed or the twisted plots of conspirators. He's the product of something more tragic: poverty, isolation, and the crushing weight of generations of bad choices. Timmy's world is small, his life quiet, his speech none. He doesn't cry, he doesn't speak, he doesn't even react to the world in the way most of us do. But his story is one of the most disturbing you'll ever hear. Because in Timmy's silence, in his lack of words, there's a message too powerful to ignore. It's a message about how far-reaching the consequences of isolation can be, how history's failures continue to echo through the present, and how no one is ever really free from the chains of their bloodline. This is the story of Timmy Whittaker, America's most inbred man, and his tragic life is far darker than you could imagine. Timmy's life didn't start in a palace or even in a modest town. It began in the hidden corners of a forgotten world, a place where time seems to slow and fade, where survival is the only law. In Odd, West Virginia, the Whittaker family's tragedy began long before Timmy was born. It was the slow unraveling of a family tree that should have never been allowed to grow. What you need to understand is this: in places like Odd, people don't have options. They don't have access to education, healthcare, or even the most basic forms of help. And when you live cut off from the rest of the world, when your only family is the one you were born into, well, things become complicated. Inbreeding became inevitable, not out of malice, but out of necessity, a survival mechanism for a bloodline that had no way to grow, no way to escape. In such isolation, bloodlines twist together like vines, unseen, uncontrollable, but always there. It wasn't evil. It wasn't some sinister plot, but the consequences were deadly. Over the years, the Whittakers became known for something dark, something most people couldn't bear to face. They became the face of inbreeding. But even more disturbing, their very existence proved something unsettling about the nature of human survival. Timmy's birth was the culmination of generations of family folding in on itself. Brothers and sisters marrying each other, first cousins having children with other cousins, over and over again. It wasn't some tragic moment of violence. It was the quiet collapse of an entire lineage. By the time Timmy arrived, the genetic damage was already set in motion. Cognitive delays, neurological problems, deformities. It wasn't just in Timmy's blood, it was in the very air he breathed. And yet, in the silence of his life, there was something incredibly tragic. His existence was a mirror, a reflection of everything that had come before him, and everything that would follow. Imagine living your entire life without speaking, without any meaningful human connection. Imagine your body existing in the world, but your mind forever trapped in silence. This is Timmy Whittaker, a man whose every movement, every gesture, is a silent scream for attention, for understanding, for connection. And yet, he cannot speak. Timmy's silence is not just physical. It's a psychological prison, one that reflects the deep damage done to his family through generations of isolation. It's as if the very act of speaking, of making a sound, was taken from him. Timmy doesn't communicate with words. He points, he grunts, he gestures. It's as though the basic tools for human interaction were denied him, yet he still has a presence, a force that no one can ignore. This isn't just about speech. It's about awareness, perception, and the way Timmy sees the world. He knows things. He can follow simple commands, and there's an intelligence behind his eyes, something more than meets the eye. But there's also a distance, an unknowable quality to him. He seems to exist in a place just out of reach, like he's on the edge of our reality, but can never fully enter it. There's a video that captures Timmy walking through a Walmart. He's pushing a cart, not making a sound, just moving through the world in a way that feels haunting. He doesn't seem like someone who's engaged in life, yet he's part of it. He's moving through the motions, but you can't help but wonder what's going on inside his head. In his silence, Timmy speaks volumes. His existence is a testament to the unraveling of human connection, a reminder that sometimes, when history collapses inward, it doesn't just break bodies, it breaks souls. Timmy Whittaker's life isn't just a sad story. It's a grim illustration of what happens when human beings are forced into isolation, cut off from the world, and left to make choices they never should have had to make. It's the story of inbreeding, the devastating effects of generations of genetic collapse. Inbreeding doesn't just affect the body. It affects the mind, the soul, and the very structure of society. For Timmy, it meant cognitive delays, physical deformities, and a host of neurological issues that left him trapped in a world that no one could explain. His case is extreme, yes, but it's not isolated. There are other families in the Appalachian Hills who have lived through the same kind of tragedy, their bloodline slowly deteriorating under the weight of isolation. What Timmy's life shows us is that inbreeding isn't just a medical issue, it's a social and psychological one. It's the slow collapse of a community, the isolation that breeds not only genetic deformities, but also social and mental ones. The Whitakers were trapped in a cycle they couldn't escape, and Timmy, as a child born into this web, became the clearest symbol of that collapse. We're not talking about the occasional family drama or a broken marriage. We're talking about generations of human beings whose very existence was shaped by a fatal flaw in the system. And the result? Timmy, a man who lives in the shadows of his family's mistakes, trapped in a life he never chose. Timmy's story is not just a tale of genetic misfortune, it's the living embodiment of a curse of bloodlines intertwined until they're no longer human, no longer free. It's the tragic consequence of a society that turned its back on these families, leaving them to survive in isolation, in poverty, in silence. The curse of blood runs deep. It's a reminder that the choices we make, the blood we share, can come back to haunt us in ways we can't fully understand. Timmy's life is a manifestation of this. His silence, his physical and mental struggles, are the result of decisions made generations before him. Decisions made out of necessity, out of survival. But here's the truth that most people don't want to admit. Timmy's life is not just an isolated tragedy. It's part of a much larger pattern. Across America, across the world, there are families just like the Whitakers, families living on the margins, where the curse of isolation breeds its own kind of destruction. It's not just about inbreeding, it's about the destruction of human connection itself. And the worst part? Timmy is still living in that silence, still surrounded by the remnants of a family that couldn't escape its past. He's still there, in the same place, living the same life. No one knows how long he'll survive. But the one thing we can say for sure is that Timmy's life has already become something much bigger than himself. It's a symbol of a curse that can never be broken, not by science, not by medicine, and certainly not by time. Timmy Whittaker stands as a haunting reminder that the past is never truly gone. It lurks beneath the surface, in the veins of the living, in the decisions made long before our time. The truth about the Whittaker family is simple yet terrifying. Their legacy is not just a story of blood and survival. It's the tragic reality that history has a way of haunting us, even when we think we've moved past it. Timmy's life is not just his own. It is a living relic of everything that has come before. The very choices of his ancestors have shaped his fate, as if time itself was complicit in his suffering. Generations of isolation and inbreeding created a path that no one could escape, and Timmy was born at the very end of that destructive road. But his existence is not merely the tragic consequence of bad genetics, it is the unavoidable outcome of a family that was left to fend for itself in a world that refused to look back. What makes Timmy's story even more tragic is that, despite the bleakness of his condition, he remains untouched by the passing world. While we rush forward into a future full of progress and change, Timmy lives in a world frozen in time. He's a living fossil, trapped in the remnants of a family and a place that has been abandoned by society. Odd, West Virginia, the town where Timmy resides, is a place stuck in a forgotten era, where history is buried beneath the dust and the silence of the hills. The Whitakers are not the only ones like this. All over the world there are families, isolated and left to their own devices, carrying the weight of centuries-old mistakes. Timmy's bloodline, just like countless others, is a product of a system that left them behind, a product of a legacy that no one wanted to acknowledge. His story, though horrifying, isn't just his own. It's a warning that some legacies are never broken. They simply morph, spreading their poison food, one generation to the next. Timmy's existence is a reminder that history never truly dies. It breathes in the blood of those who come after, shaping their lives, their choices, their very essence. And like all forgotten legacies, it's something we cannot escape, no matter how hard we try.